This is used at the Kaiser systems throughout our area. So it's actually a very user-friendly ventilator. The one thing with vents is normally the reason you don't like a ventilator is because you don't know it. The people that get and learn to know specific vents, that becomes the vent they like because that's the vent they know. So, but remember, I don't want you to stand and hold it, Dario. Put it on top of the copy. Because you need to be over here paying attention, unless you know about this ventilator.
We got that in my house.
Well, you ready? Can you do the in-service?
Yeah, let me teach
Sure.
it. That's the one I'm
Oh,
trying,
no.
just so you know.
Fake it till you make it.
Okay. We don't fake it in this class. I don't think so. You're talking about they're talking about somebody's life is in your hands if you put them on this machine. There is no faking allowed. Seriousness only. So normally you guys will have to hook in our air and our O2, remember. But this ventilator actually has an internal air compressor, which is right down here. So the vents. Uh-oh, Randy.
Touched it.
Uh-oh.
I'm fixture.
It's fixed.
Put a book
Well,
on.
no.
No, we need to make sure that she's got it.
Who touched it?
Give me those.
Nobody. Hannah.
No, I did not.
Let's start with
Great,
it.
Hannah.
I was sad then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you got a view? Okay, we're back. Click. Check, two. So anyways, the vents, as we'll talk about more in the coming weeks, the vents have to have some kind of 50 psi power source to run. They require electricity and a 50 psi source. That's hospital vents. That's not every vent. So you have to be plugged into air or oxygen at a minimum, ideally both, and then have your electric source. So because this ventilator has an internal air compressor, it's the nice one that I can just run it off electricity because the air compressor will kick in. Now we won't have any oxygen, so we'll have to have it on room air. So, but we can run it without having to plug it into the wall. So to turn it on, the on-off switch is right here in the front. It's one of the few ventilators where it's right in the front. All you got to do is flick the switch right there, and it will come on, like so, and then it starts alarming. That's the air compressor that you're hearing right there. If you're plugged into the air source in the wall, you won't hear that kick in. If you unhook your air for some reason, you'll hear that kick in. Of course, that's telling us that it's got no oxygen right now, so it's just one of the safety alarms. So this ventilator needs this to work. So it's a filter. It's just an expiratory filter. And it goes right in this compartment right here. There's a little blue latch here that you have to, so you put this filter in right here and then click that down into place. If this is not clicked into place, the vent won't work because that's not locked in. So it has to actually be locked in. That's the exhalation side. And then over here you'll see two patient. Remember I was telling you guys, usually you'll see inspiratory or expiratory or to patient or from patient on your ventilator so you know which is which. This ventilator, it says right here, to patient. So we know that's our, which side?
It's the one without the-
Inspiratory. Which, how do we know which one is, oh, this one, it doesn't matter. Yeah, normally the one with the temp probe. So we're going to put, and typically you'll have an inspiratory filter there, but I didn't put one on just for demo, so that would be there. And usually we'll have our humidifier picked up too. So the other,
When there's a temperature probe, it's reading the inspiratory temperature.
yeah, because that's the side that we're worried about. So to do a calibration on this ventilator, all ventilators have some kind of calibration procedure. Some of them, it's computerized and it will tell you exactly what you do. The Galileo, it's not, and it's the old-fashioned way. In the old days, we used to just do manual calibration. The calibrations are safety checks to make sure that the ventilator's working, that it's done between patients or when you think there's a problem. Sometimes you'll actually do one in the room. It doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you will. This PB840, the calibration test is called the SST. That stands for the short self-test. And it's actually a 3-minute test. It seems like it takes 15, but it's really only 3. And what we're doing is checking all the internal components, checking the alarms, checking for leaks in the system. Yes?
What was the SST?
Short self-test. Short like tall and short, yeah.
Is it like they said, most
No,
If it's
this
already
is
been
done if it's
calibrated.
already been calibrated, and that's a good point. What normally happens, if you work at a small hospital, you might do the calibrations yourself. A lot of the hospitals, though, they have equipment technicians and people that's what they do is they get the equipment ready. So in that situation, they'll clean the ventilator, they'll calibrate it, they'll get circuits and everything you need and have it right there. They'll put a bag over it and they'll say it's ready and been calibrated and like put their initials with it. When you see that, that means it's ready to go, the calibration's done, and it's ready to put on a patient. That's telling you that that safety check has been done. If there's any doubt in your mind whether the safety check has been done, what do?
Do it.
Do it. It is your responsibility. You are the respiratory therapist putting it on that patient. There's a way you can check and see when it was last done on this ventilator. It's right here on the screen. It says SST, passed, and the date. Now it could be a while back if it's been sitting around and it's not on a patient. But we see here that this is passed. EST is extended self-test. We don't do that. That's a biomed. That's where they fix them, and the only one that we do is the SST. So if you see a ventilator sitting like this with no bags, nothing on it, that usually means it's not ready to go on a patient. Wherever you go work or wherever you go do your clinicals, you'll learn what their process is. And it's one of the things that's mandated by JACO and all the places that accredited hospitals is you have to have a process in place to know what equipment is patient ready and which is not. Pretty much the standard across the board is with a bag over it and a label tells you that it's patient ready. Dario.
Henry, how often should you redo the test? If it's already done, but it's been maybe 2 weeks, or
Doesn't matter.
no?
Nope. If it says it's ready and it hasn't, and that means it hasn't been on a patient, then it doesn't matter if it was 2 weeks ago. No one's used it since then, so it's fine. The only time it has to be done is between patients. Okay? This ventilator in particular does not like you to hook up a patient. Can you hand me that, please? Before you do anything. See, it's called, it will give you a procedure error. What it thinks you did is it thinks you hooked the ventilator up to the patient without setting anything. Because we haven't set any settings, we haven't done anything except turn it on. So the ventilator's going, why did you do that? So to that, it's a procedure error. It's not going to let you finish until you unhook.
Isn't it similar to that? You have to do a sensor before you even stick the patient calibrated.
Well, you have to have the sensor on there, but it won't do what this thing does. This thing goes nuts. And you see that this is going to give you crazy alarms. It's going to go into what's called safety ventilation, one alarm after another. And you have to shut it off and start over again when you do that. So if you turn on your ventilator and do this before, at any point before you set your settings and confirm them, you're going to have that happen to you. So it will tell you waiting for patient connect when it wants to be hooked up. Until then, keep the lung away. So when I did that, it went into safety ventilation. Safety ventilation, and there's safety valves. The safety ventilation on this ventilator sets its own kind of little, okay, I'm in safety ventilation. I have these preset settings I'm going to deliver to the patient. There's also safety valves in the ventilators. Every ventilator has a safety valve, and it's one of the most important features because a safety valve is a valve that will open up and allow the patient to get room air. So let's say that something malfunctions on the ventilator inside, and we don't know what it is, but it's a serious error and the vent's going to shut down. Well, it's hooked to a patient. If the vent shuts down, your patient's not going to breathe. So it will open a safety valve. The safety valve will allow the patient to at least breathe room air. So it opens up the ventilator to room air until somebody comes over and fixes what the problem is. It's a very rare alarm. It's very, very rarely used. However, it's one of the most important ones, and it's one of the things we check when we go through our calibration. Okay? So we're going to turn this back on without our alarm hooked up to it. And now we're going to do the SST, and to do that, you have to push SST right here at the bottom of the screen. It says SST. And then you have to push this button on the side that says test. There's a little button right here underneath this cord that says test. You have to push that in. And if you don't do it within 5 seconds, it's going to make it's too late. So you have to press SST again. And now we'll press SST.
So you push before
SST, then test.
And then SST again?
No, only once.
unless you weigh more than 5 cents.
Randy, do you want to make sure that we still, because I moved it, I think it's okay. That's the only time I'm going to move it. So now you see you're at a screen that says SST setup, and it's going to say patient circuit type adult, which for this class we will always do adults. You'll do neonates in your neonate class. It's going to say humidification type, heated expiratory tube. This circuit is not heated because it has no wires inside, but the circuits that you used when I had you put the vents together, those are the heated wire circuits. So that would be heated tube. And then humidifier volume, we would put, if we had the humidifier on here, it's just asking how much water does it hold.
Is the heated expiratory tube really heating the expiratory?
It heats both sides actually. Yep. And so once you said that, you'll see at the bottom of the Puritan Bennett, there's a little screen that's either blue or orange that tells you what it wants you to do. So if you don't know what to do next, look there. It'll tell you. So right now it says adjust settings as needed, must match installed equipment, which it means it needs to match what we have on there, and then it says to apply, press accept. So now we're going to press accept. And now it says please wait, and now it's going to start, it's not going to pass because we don't have O2, but that's all right. We're still going to run through it. Normally your oxygen would be hooked up and you would not get an alert right away. But when you do this, you got a little orange box down here at the bottom that's going to tell you exactly what to do. You need to follow these instructions to a T or you won't pass your SST. So right now it says connect circuit with inspiratory filter and without humidifier. It's okay that there's not a filter hooked up for me, just showing you. We don't have the humidifier hooked up. And then it says when done, press accept. See, it tells you exactly what you need to know. So now we press accept. Now it says block Y. One of the most important things with this ventilator and what everyone makes the mistake of, when it says to block the Y, do not unblock it until it tells you to. Doesn't matter if you go through 6 steps. You can go step to step to step, step to step to step. Don't unblock it even in between steps until it tells you to. If you do, you will fail. You'll fail your SST, and if you can't pass your SST, you can't go on to ventilation. So it says block Y, when done, press accept, so I'm going to do that. And now it's going to continue. And we have little covers for the circuits that you could use because you can see my hand's going to be exhausted by the time I'm done.
You said if we don't pass the SST, we can't go on mechanical ventilation.
You can't ventilate on this.
Oh, I'm like,
Well, if you can't pass the SST, you won't pass your test, which means you won't go on.
we're talking about the class.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like, wait a minute, are we in?
But in the real world, if you
Right.
needed to do an SST, you needed to pass.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you'll see it's just going along here.
Miss Foss, for most of the ventilator, do you always test that first before you put on the lung, or is there one where you do?
Some of them you can put the lung on, but you wouldn't do that until you did your test before you put it on a patient.
Yeah.
So I like everybody to get in the habit that we don't put our lung on until we make sure we have everything set and we've done our calibrations, because we would never do that on a real patient. We want to practice the way we would do it for real. So you should not have your lungs hooked up when you first hook up your ventilator. Okay, so now connect humidifier if applicable. So it's not hooked up for right now, but so we'll just keep going. So we'll say accept. If you did though, we had a bypass, so you would have to hook it up, which you will be using. Now it's telling me it didn't pass this, so it wants to know what I want to do. I'm going to just go on to the next one for now. Normally you wouldn't do that. It would go right to the very next test. So now we're doing the next one. Circuit, this is checking for leaks. Why did I fail? Do I have a bad circuit? Huh?
Come on, Miss Boss.
I know. Mary, can you do me a favor? Can you go in the room and get me another circuit?
Absolutely.
Thanks. You see real world troubleshooting?
This is it right here.
That's it.
DEF CON 5.
If it doesn't pass, we're headed to Mars. If it doesn't pass the leak test, it usually something's wrong, because it's saying that it's sensing something is wrong in our circuit usually. So one of the things you do if it doesn't pass the leak test is just get another circuit.
In the meantime, where are some of the places that we're going to see this particular vent test?
At Kaiser, the Kaiser system.
Yes, Kaiser.
Mhm.
If you put
push rails. Yes.
Huh?
Said nifty push rails.
Oh yeah, they come in handy.
Is that the only one they have? Because he gives you push-ups.
Kaiser.
You're doing a bone check.
This one.
Yeah, veterans.
Oh, it's big though.
Can't push that the other way.
The heated and non-heated wire, when do you use one over the other?
We always use heated.
Okay.
You'll always use heated in
Does
the
your body
clinicals.
feel?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and it helps keep the temperature the same so you don't have rain out. The Draeger.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yep, this is a heated line.
Could it be anything else if it doesn't pass? It's fine.
It could be the filter.
Could it be like the pressure, or is that a part of it that you hold the pressure to? For that
I
test?
love how you're always on my side.
Well, yeah, but I had it could be that, yeah, some air was leaking out, yeah. It could be your connections are open. There are a number of connections that have to be closed. It could be your filter, or it could be that I didn't hold it, or if your humidifier was hooked up, it could be that. So it could be any combination.
And if it's one of those, you would just replace it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So basically, they just
All right, well, it is not cooperating with me.
Are those heated vent circuits super expensive?
Yes. They are very expensive.
Is that a band? Sounds like it is.
Sorry, the filter like jumped out at me. No, so I had to make sure.
For one person.
At the filter's the end.
See what I can.
We're like, right here.
My pencil is.
Well, some are internal, and you don't have to put them in.
So do you